Good morning, everyone. We welcome you to the Wednesday, the October 30th meeting of the Board of Trustees for the Utah Transit Authority. We'd invite you to stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll get started with our Safety First meeting. Good morning, Sheldon.
Good morning, Chair, Trustees. Appreciate the opportunity as always. My safety message today is it's cold. The average low for October is 42 degrees. We were well south of that overnight. We're well south of that right now. And so our friends, coworkers, our pets that have to do shifts outside, we need to pay attention. We can rotate shifts. We can use the buddy system, make sure people have a chance to get warm. We need to make sure that our folks have the right gear in order to stay warm. Some of the warning signs we would look for is the shivering, confused, and if they just don't seem right, we need to get them to help right away. So stay warm.
Very timely message. Thank you. Well, our next item up is a public hearing for our 2019 bond refunding, restructuring, and new money issuance. And we've had a lot of discussion on that and some explanations. And maybe before we open up the hearing, we'll turn to you, Bob, and any others that you want to give us an update of where we are in the process.
Certainly. I'll ask Brian Baker and Blake Wade to come up here. Brian Baker is our financial advisor and Blake Wade's bond counsel. As we started this process, we had 3 different refunding series that we were looking at and then 1 new money issue. Since we looked at that, rates have gone against us quite a bit. So where we stand right now, we would probably do the first of the refunding, which is the 2012 bonds, the 5% coupons, and refunding about $98 million of those bonds. And then we do the new money would raise approximately $75 million to fund our 5-year capital plan, a portion of our 5-year capital plan. So I thought it'd be useful before the public hearing to have Brian talk about current conditions and where we stand right now and what may happen in the next week as we get ready to go to market. And then Blake is here to talk about the resolution allows us to do part of the bond issue now and then do part later. And so he's here to answer any questions and talk about that. So I'll turn it over to Brian.
Good morning. So since we first met with you and kind of discussed the status of what things looked like, interest rates have gone against us about 25 basis points, so about 0.25%. They continue to be volatile. This morning, the GDP number, the initial GDP report for the third quarter was released. The market was expecting 1.6%. It came in better at 1.9%. And usually better news makes rates go higher, but in this case, rates have gone down. The Federal Reserve is meeting today, and they will have an announcement at noon. There is almost 100% expectation that they will reduce the Fed funds rate by an additional 0.25%. So that is expected, and the market shouldn't have a lot of reaction to that. What will be important is whether they have hawkish or dovish language about the future of where they expect interest rates to go based on the data that they're seeing in the economy, and that could swing the market in a big way, either positively or negatively, or it could mean absolutely nothing, and rates could just kind of continue to tread where they are. But so as we've approached the market, one day you're up 5 basis points or down 10 and up 10, and we're looking at the things that make the most sense to do. We're looking at publishing a preliminary official statement that still includes all of the things we talked to you about over the last month and a half. But if they're not economically viable, we would not want to take them into the market, but can instead just wait and look at doing those things down the road if rates do circle back. And certainly for some of the bonds that were issued in 2015, their call date isn't up until 2025. And the expectation or the thought would be that sometime in the next 6 years, there might be a better time to do those than right now. However, the 5% coupons from the 2012 bonds continue to generate over 12% in net present value savings, over $12 million of economic benefit, and that's very helpful. And in terms of where the rates are for new money tax exempt bonds, those are still very helpful and competitive as well. And so that's kind of the plan right now. Economic data, there's an employment report coming out on Friday that people are looking at as significant and important, and that can also affect what rates look like when we come to the market next Wednesday. But the expectation is that there shouldn't be any large variance from where we are now, which is in a slightly worse position than we were when we last met with you.
Brian, can I ask a
Yep.
couple questions? When is the last day that you sort of check your rates and decide what groups, maybe aside from this one tranche that you'd offer?
Yep, we talked about that yesterday, and I think Monday is the feeling. On taxable bonds, which the refundings would be, there's a 2-day process for issuing those. And so we'd probably start that process Monday afternoon late. And so it would depend on what the market was like over the next couple of days and then what things looked like on Monday. Currently, things would have to move decently in our favor for some of those portions that we're not anticipating including to be included. But that would be a welcome surprise if it happened that way.
Then maybe my next question is, I know one of the reasons we looked at it collectively, well, first of all, the whole thing made sense, but there were some issuance benefits and some other things. How much more sort of issuance cost do you have by maybe doing it separately?
Well, there will be some additional costs in terms of doing it separately. I've revisited each of the rating agency fees. Those get cut approximately in half by doing it. The two pieces we're talking about would be about $170 million as opposed to $510 or $520 million. And so a lot of those fees scale down. So some of the fees scale down proportionately. Some of them don't completely scale down proportionally, but I would estimate that you'd still probably bear an additional 25% of the costs relative to if we'd been able to issue everything together in one big piece.
And so when we first started talking about this, we were talking about the first piece, the refunding. And then we said, well, we ought to do the new money. So as Brian and I were talking yesterday, where we started. And we'd added the second and third refundings as potentials that would be helpful. On the third one, that's the restructuring. It's too expensive right now. It's almost $10 million to do that. And I don't think we can recommend that because there will be future opportunities to achieve that.
I guess that maybe brings us to the next question to Blake. Whether the parameters allow us as far as a window.
So the resolution, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, the resolution that was adopted allows you to issue in multiple series, and from time to time is the language that we put in the document, so you can elect to do that in the future. There's not a hard and fast rule. We've generally thought that about a year.
Okay.
The concept here is we've given notice to the public that we're going to do this, and that it could be done in the future at any time. And the thought is that generally after about a year, it's probably good to come back and give notice again that we're planning to do it. But to be honest, if you came back 13 months from now and wanted to do it, that would probably be fine too. But that's a rule of thumb that we normally use.
But say 5 or 6 months from now, if somehow things change favorably in our,
We wouldn't have to re-adopt anything. You could just
we could maybe
proceed.
move forward with
Yes,
something.
you will have held your hearing, you will have given the notice, you've adopted your resolution, you could move forward at that time.
Correct. We still have to do a lot of the same work. Like we'd probably have to go back to the rating agencies, have to redo our official statement. There'd be several things we'd have to do over again, but that would be okay too.
Questions from other members of the board? Great. Thanks, Bob. Thank you, Brian and Blake. With that, I'll open the hearing for the public hearing to invite public comment. Just as a reminder, we allowed 2 minutes for individuals or 5 minutes for somebody representing a group. Do we have anybody here from the public? Okay. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and second to close the public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes, and so, thank you. We'll next go to our general public comment period. Bob, do we have anybody here?
Yes, I do have one comment from George Chapman. UTA should be prioritizing building more parking lots next to rail stations since they are often full. Booz Allen Hamilton study showed the full parking lots deter mass transit ridership increases. The plan to try and save and make earthquake-proof the old rail building for the new bus garage is even more questionable when there is a push and plan to build bus garages in outlying areas, southwest and southeast corners of Salt Lake County, to decrease deadhead buses. Parking lots are needed more than bus garages now in capital letters. Please encourage discussion at Salt Lake County Council during budget on a $25 per month bus and TRAX pass similar to the special rates given to university students and employees. Salt Lake County has transportation money for it. It is time to really increase mass transit ridership.
Thank you. Any other comments?
No other comments.
Okay, thank you. We'll next go to approval of our minutes from October the 23rd.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes of October 23rd, 2019 board meeting minutes.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. We'll next go to our agency report. Good morning, Carolyn.
Good morning. I have just two items. One is mentioned on the agenda, which is to talk about the UVX program change order 210 for extended overhead costs. This is a change order that we have been working with the contractor over the last year or so to negotiate, primarily regarding extended time on the project. And so we did a mediation last Monday, and we came to a settlement during the mediation for $1.056 million to compensate the contractor for extended overhead costs during scheduled delays associated with the change orders issued from January 2018 through the end of the project. Due to the additional scope added by the multiple change orders, unknown field conditions, and the subcontractor performance issues, the overall scheduled duration increased by a total of 113 days. But we paid there was some delays that were contractor caused, so we deducted and sort of reduced that amount of the overhead that we paid based on the contractor's delay. So it also adjusts the milestone dates for the contractor to sort of meet the time that the activities are happening or going to happen in the future. So just wanted to let you know there is a change order being executed over the next few weeks regarding that amount of money, but I think it's important to let you know how that is proceeding since that's been in progress for the last year and a half.
Carolyn, I assume that with this, that will, if maybe absent warranty work that the contractor might be obligated to, does that sort of close out this project?
The closeout date right now is scheduled for the end of the year because there's punch list items that have to be done. If weather conditions don't cooperate with that, it might extend to next spring. But there's no safety issues out there or anything. It's mostly just punch lists, restriping some other areas, landscaping that we're resolving as well. To let you know of that $1 million change order, $750,000 of that is UTA, $749,490 is UTA, $300,510 is UDOT's responsibility. So that's how that funding would be split. We're still within the project budget.
Excellent. Thank you.
The second item I want to talk to you real quickly is about the derailment last night that we had on the TRAX system at 400 South Main. And 400 South and Main, the two rear cars of the four-car train derailed. Crews are on the scene working, and Eddie's here to provide a little more detail and answer any questions.
Good morning, Eddie.
Good morning. It's been a long night.
Yeah, I bet. I was wondering about that.
Yeah, so just a little bit of an update. So as Carolyn said, derailment at 400 South Main occurred at approximately 10 p.m. last night. Train was headed north, turning east on 400 South. Crews have been working all night to re-rail the train, and based on the latest info I have, I expect it to be re-railed within the next couple of hours. We did hold off last night on the re-rail activities. There was a Guns N' Roses concert, and so we wanted to make sure we were able to get people through there, and we were able to still use the southbound track. So we continued to use that, and we got everybody out without any major delays last night. To this point, we've been focused on restoring service, and as soon as we get service back up and running, then we'll go to looking at the root cause of what happened and making sure we fix whatever that problem is.
How long do you think you would get a sense of what caused it? I mean, obviously, that's probably not on somebody's your radar screen just because they're busy with the other.
So it's a switch issue. It appears that the first two cars made it through the switch, and then the logic of the system flipped the switch underneath the train while it was stopped, and then the rear two cars continued straight. And so we just need to find out and do pull a lot of data, look and see what's going on and what happened and what malfunctioned.
Thanks. Quite any questions for Eddie? Well, certainly are appreciative to your crews that have been working on it. It's not the most idealist of weather situation, and it's obviously a disruption for our passengers.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your.
We hope to get it restored rather quickly.
Yeah, thank you. Carolyn, anything else?
That concludes my agency report.
Okay, thank you. Excuse me. First item up is a resolution approving the amended charter for the Committee on Accessible Transportation. And Kent, since you're representing us there, do you want to introduce this?
Yes, it's really been a privilege to serve with the CAT committee, the Committee for Accessible Transportation. Teresa is here, and between the two of us, what we want to do is to introduce the fact that the charter that is required for that CAT group was recently amended on forget the date, October 21st. The CAT committee met and approved the revisions to the charter. There were a few things that we'd like to highlight that were changed. There were a number of procedural things that were changed, but two or three items of some significance. Teresa, do you want to list those?
So a couple of significant changes. First, the charter adopted in 2017 indicates there will be 12 members of the CAT committee. We had a very successful recruitment year, and between that and our desire to make sure we're representing the full disability community, the CAT felt it was important to increase that number to 13. Second, as we've gone to quarterly full CAT meetings, the responsibilities of the CAT members to attend meetings has decreased. So where CAT members used to be allowed to have 5 absences, they'd like to decrease that number to 3. And then again, reducing the frequency of the CAT meetings, the full CAT meetings from bi-weekly in the currently adopted charter to, bi-monthly.
Yeah.
Making more work for myself. Bi-monthly, yes, to quarterly. Updated the list of CAT member responsibilities. Really, the essential change there is we do have CAT members participating in new operator training and new employee orientation now. Revised the descriptions of the subcommittees to more accurately describe what they're actually doing now. Shifting the responsibilities of selecting new members to the Planning and Community Outreach Subcommittee, and then moving the membership year, the start of the membership year, to August 1st to make sure that CAT members have a chance to come to a training about what being on the CAT is about before we're asking them to give feedback to the UTA.
So we, with those changes, the CAT committee approved the revised charter, but it's also required that the board approve that amended charter as well. And so with that, I would ask if there are any further questions.
No, I would just say, first of all, thanks, Ken, for participating, but more importantly, what a great committee. I, have sat in on one or two of those meetings, but the discussion, the dialogue is so informative of things that just never would have crossed my mind as being issues, but make all the sense in the world. And that feedback, I think, is clearly invaluable as we look to improve our service. So thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for your participation. You are so energetic, and I think it is really, it just speaks well of how excited people are to be on that committee. And I think it's really great that we're representing as many potential disability areas as possible. So thank you for your work.
With that, I'll entertain a motion from you, Ken.
Well, I certainly would make a motion that we as a board approve the amended charter as has been presented.
I will second.
Have a motion and a second to approve this particular resolution, and I'll ask for a roll call.
Trustee Millington,
Aye.
Trustee Holbrook,
Aye.
Chair Kuzinson.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much. Now, in conjunction with the CAT committee, at the recent APTA meeting, there was a pamphlet that was presented that contains instructions to transit board members on what the ADA requirements are. And so we, Sharisa and I, presented to the committee that they would review that nationwide pamphlet that's been issued, because the call has come from APTA to have feedback. And so we've asked our board members to provide us feedback for the January meeting, which we will then share with APTA. And they were very excited to be able to have that kind of input at the national level. And they were very receptive to the idea. And so we look forward to having that kind of input back that we can share with APTA from the committee.
That's great. Thank you. Thanks, Ken. Item number 9 is a resolution ratifying the adoption of the tentative budget. I have Carolyn and then Bob, and I don't know if it goes in that order or not.
No, it's mostly Bob.
Okay. Bob, do you want to tell us where we are and our tentative budget?
Certainly. So in the process of adopting a budget for next year, the first thing you do is adopt a tentative budget. And that tentative budget is then used for public comment. And so, we have our best, I was going to say best-selling. I don't know about that.
Don't discount it. Yeah.
We have our budget book that's available that we've tried to improve over the last couple of years to get this information out at the time of the tentative budget. So a lot of detail about the budget in that book, and I've got some copies over here if people want some. So this is the first step where the board approves a tentative budget, then that goes out for the public comment period that'll run from November 1st through November 5th. During that time, and in part of the resolution, you're approving holding a public hearing on November 19th at 6 p.m. Prior to that, we'll have an open house from 5 to 6 for anyone who's interested to come talk to key staff people about what's in the budget. And again, the budget book, trying to push it really hard. I feel like I'm on TV, and saying, doing this.
You are. Eric would remind you, you are.
So we would encourage people to get that. But the open house is intended for people who do have an interest in our budget to come and talk to key stakeholders, to key staff members, and get their questions answered so they can be more informed for the public hearing. We also will send out this book as well as some other information to all of the cities, counties, governor, and other that we're required to under state law to send that to. There'll be a budget message from the board that we're working on right now. We are hoping to get that out tomorrow, so they have a full time to get that done. Included in there is a signature sheet for each of those groups to sign and get back to us, so a plug that they can get that back to us within 15 days prior to the public hearing. The actual budget itself, it's a $491 million operating budget, $190.5 million capital budget. You reviewed that last week, and you reviewed much of it in September, so I won't go over the details on that right now. After the public hearing on the 19th, the local advisory council will also see the tentative budget. Mention to them things that have changed since we talked to them in September about what we thought would be in the tentative budget. And so they'll get an opportunity to look at the tentative budget and provide comments back to the board and things they might want to see different in the final budget. We'll be putting together that final budget and bringing it back to the board on December 11th for discussion, and then we anticipate final approval on December 18th.
And I will say, having glanced through a draft, it is a much improved budget book, and kudos to you and your staff. And at a cost of free, it should be best-selling. So thank you.
And it is going to be available on our website.
Yeah. Questions from any of the board? Good. With no questions, then Bob, and I'm assuming you're complete, and we're okay to take a motion.
Yes, we
Okay.
appreciate your approval of the resolution.
I would entertain a motion to adopt such a resolution.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we adopt our 2019-10-07 resolution ratifying the adoption of the tentative 2020 budget.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. I'll ask for a roll call.
Trustee Holbrook,
Aye.
Trustee Millington,
Aye.
Chair Christensen.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob, and again, thanks to you and your staff, and Carolyn, all the rest of your chiefs. I know that's been a lot of effort gone into that. Item 10 is a resolution authorizing execution on an interlocal cooperation agreement with the Central Wasatch Commission to provide increased bus service to Big Cottonwood and Little Cottonwood Canyons for 2019 and 2020 winter season. And that season seems to have come sooner than later. Lauren and Laura, if you want to explain a little bit. I was at the Central Wasatch Commission meeting, so I might add a couple comments at the end. But.
Excellent.
Great. Well, if I can say real quickly, following up on our conversation on the rail derailment, a lot of great work happening out there. Just to point out also that we have quite a few people out there with the bus bridge. So we have supervisors and operators out there in a cold weather, and they just do a great job, almost unnoticed, to make sure people get from point A to point B. So anyway, just want to acknowledge them.
Thank you.
So Laura will discuss here in a minute an interlocal agreement that will allow us to provide some additional service this next ski season. As you are well aware, the congestion in our canyons during the winter is significant. And so all of the stakeholders are interested in finding solutions, and we know that public transportation is a critical part of the solution. We have conversations currently and ongoing in terms of long-term solutions, but everyone was interested in seeing what could we do in the short term? What could we do this ski season even? And so we got the best and the brightest and most creative minds together to see what could we do within the constraints that we have. The greatest constraint is the number of buses that we have. Our ski buses now are fully utilized. To order new buses requires time, potentially up to a year to receive those. And even if we did have them, our garages are full until the depot district is completed. And so to find some short-term solutions would require that we do it within the constraints of the number of the buses, ski buses that we have now. And but again, with creativity, looking at what we could do, we have something that we'll present to you that with the help of this ILA, we're comfortable and excited that we'd be able to provide. The two areas that need to be addressed short-term and long-term in the canyons are service. We need more service as our buses are full and then some on those busy days. And the canyon is congested, so our ability to actually move those full buses is challenged on those busy days, getting in and out of parking lots and so forth. And so we wanted to look at both. So we have 3 routes that service the Cottonwood Canyons, and we are prepared to increase our service on 2 of those routes. The Route 972 serves Big Cottonwood Canyon, and then the Route 953, which I'll talk about here in just a minute, serves Little Cottonwood Canyon. So we're prepared to increase service on both. The Route 972 in the past has provided 61 weekday, 65 Saturday, and 62 Sunday one-way trips. we talk about it in terms of one-way trips, because for ski, if you think about it, in the morning, everyone's going up, not coming down. And in the afternoon, everyone's coming down, not going up. So we've found, for example, in the afternoon, that rather than keeping a bus in revenue service and stopping at every stop along the way going up and just slowing it down, we just deadhead that bus to the resorts and get them out. And so we measure it in one-way trips. It's the most meaningful way to really measure what service we're providing for ski. So as you can see there, that's the level of service we've offered in the past. What we're prepared to do this next ski season is offer 79 one-way trips all week long, which will be a significant improvement. How do we do that? The cost is less than $50,000 for the ski season, which is much less than you would think. Well, how do we do that? And how do we do that with the bus constraints that we have? Well, the idea is that we would shorten the route. So it allows us to turn that bus around and make more cycles, to provide more trips. And we would shorten it by eliminating the Bingham Junction TRAX station stop that's on the very west end of this route. We're comfortable doing that because of all of the non-ski resort boardings for that route. So the collector stops up until before you get to the resorts. 10% or fewer are boarding at that Bingham Junction TRAX station. And of those that are boarding there, only 4.5% are actually transferring from TRAX, which means by far the majority of the people who are utilizing the Route 972 at that stop are going there and parking or being dropped off. And so instead, the first stop will be the Fort Union Midvale Junction stop, which will be, that's about 1.5 miles away. And so people will be able to go there just as easily. And we think that the capacity will be sufficient to be able to accommodate that. It will shorten the trip, faster trip, more cycles with a relatively low cost.
Ask a
Please.
couple questions there.
Uh-huh.
I assume for that 4% that seem to be coming through on TRAX, they just would go one more stop, basically, right?
Exactly, the Fort Union.
And then the other question I have is really a maintenance question, and that is, you're basically still using the same number of buses. Will they sort of have, I mean, you have a little bit of contingency if you have a bus that has maintenance issues for a day, or is this gonna be a real challenge to keep them?
We're comfortable with this and being able to operate this, including maintenance. It is within the number of buses. It will not add the number of buses. It will add some more miles, and that's where the cost comes in, a few more miles and then hours in terms of operating costs, but minimal, because you're really using that same bus and same operator and turning it around more quickly. And so there will be a few more miles, but in terms of maintaining them, we're comfortable with this. The other route where we're prepared to add some services, the Route 953, and that services the Little Cottonwood Canyon. Again, you can see in terms of one-way trips in the past, that was pretty much a peak-only route. The other route that services Little Cottonwood Canyon provides significantly more service. But the 953 in the past had 17 weekday one-way trips, 23 weekend, and we're prepared to provide 35 all week long. The cost for that is a little more because there will be more added miles and hours. It will be, as you can see, 100,000 or less. We're continuing as we do our blocking and run cutting, trying to make that more and more efficient, but it will certainly not be more than that. And the reason that also is a relatively low cost for that amount of increased service is because we were able to find some savings in deadheading. So if it's peak-only service, you have buses that are providing that service. They're turning around and heading back to the garage and then heading back out for later in the day. Well, we take advantage of those deadheading costs, and instead of sending them back to the garage, we send them back up the canyon. And so again, the cost is relatively low for that amount of service. It's within the bus constraints that we have. And we're excited to be able to do this. We think it's a creative way to provide more service in the short term. A couple of other things that we're prepared to do, and these address more the congestion We have ongoing conversations with all the stakeholders of what we can do to get those buses in and out of parking lots, the ski resorts and so forth more quickly. Because if the bus is full, that's great that you're carrying people, but if it's not moving, obviously that's not a good thing. And so we've got to be able to get in and out of the congested areas more quickly. And we have ongoing conversations with all of the entities involved in the canyons to find ways to do that. Some of the things we've decided already to do and are prepared to do is eliminate the ski racks on our ski buses. And the purpose for that is it will significantly increase our travel speed on the ski service because it reduces the dwell time where customers having to get on, find their way to the middle of the bus, get their skis in those ski racks, and then get to a seat. And then each time they stop, people having to jostle around to get back to it. We have found that a lot of the customers already just don't use the ski racks because of that. And instead of just keep them with them, hold them, in front of them, between their legs, whatever, and in their seats. All of the entities have agreed to do that for this year and to see if that can help not only increase our carrying capacity because it frees up space, but also travel time on those busy days.
Can I ask a question? And maybe you're going to get to this, but so what is the cost of taking those interior racks and putting them on the exterior of the bus?
We don't know yet in terms of exterior. We're not proposing to do that this year. We're simply going to remove those. However, there is a rule, a law that allows only a maximum width of 9 feet of a vehicle in the canyons. Our buses, they currently reach that, and so we would need some type of exception from UDOT to allow us to expand the width by adding these ski racks. They exist. We're beginning to look at those. If we could get that exception, we could do that the following year. But in terms of the short term, the time frame that we had to be able to do this and ordering equipment, everyone felt like, including the ski resorts, that it was worth removing them and seeing if that could help with speed and capacity in the short term.
Thank you.
We used to have racks on the outside of the buses. It's been at least 10 years ago, or maybe more now, time flies, maybe 15 years ago. And they didn't accommodate the larger snowboards. And so instead of replacing with new racks, the decision was let's buy buses that are wider and put the ski racks on the inside. Those have had some pros and cons as well. Again, and in terms of carrying capacity, in terms of people and dwell time, slowing the bus down for our customers has been another challenge. So we're really interested to see what happens this year by doing that, and everyone's quite supportive of it. The other congestion mitigation strategy that we feel comfortable moving forward with for this season is to eliminate the park and ride lot at Little Cottonwood Canyon as a bus stop. What benefit does that give? Well, on the best days when traffic is flowing really smoothly and easily, we're in that park and ride lot each trip 5 to 7 minutes each way, and about 20% of our customers board at that location, and so 80% are waiting. It's slowing their trip. On the busy days, when most of the skiers are coming and going, we may be stuck in that lot for 12, 15 minutes easily each way because of the congestion in the lot, but also then getting back out and turning left. And so the challenge on this will be communication. There's a park and ride lot at 90th South and 20th East, 94th South, and 20th East, which has plenty of capacity for parking there. So the challenge will be simply communicating to the customers that instead of going to Little Cottonwood Canyon and parking there or dropping off there, they go about 2 miles west outside the canyon and use that. And again, so for 85% of our customers, it will be a faster trip. Well, for all of them, it'll be a faster trip. For a few of them, they'll need to change the location of where they park. That park and ride lot will continue to be used for carpooling and so forth. It's heavily used for carpooling now. In fact, before our first bus even pulls through there in the morning, it's usually half full with people who are parking there, carpooling, taking vans up to the resorts and so forth. And so they'll continue to do that and focus that as a carpooling, ride-sharing kind of area. And That will significantly increase our speed and turnaround time during those busy times. We have other conversations about other things to do with the police that are working in the canyons, managing traffic and the resorts to find ways to help our buses move more quickly. Those conversations are ongoing. But these are the things that so far we've found that we could do and are prepared to do this season.
I have another question. What are, since we're going to increase the service and on both of those, and obviously the frequency would increase, and of course with Little Cottonwood Canyon where it was deadheading, it would obviously increases. What is that time frame? Like, is it 20 minutes, 30 minutes every time a bus would come? Do you guys have an idea of what that would be?
Yeah, so it'll be 15-minute frequency during the peaks and then 30 minutes during the middle of the day. And so quite a bit of the increase will be extending that frequency. We've had 15 minutes in the past, but now this will allow us to extend that peak period where we have 15-minute service in the morning to get up and then in the afternoon to get down. It will also make it possible to have consistent 30-minute service throughout the middle of the day. And the stakeholders are excited about that because many people don't go and ski for a full day and they want half-day options or the plans change. And the fact that the bus is going to be regularly scheduled there relatively frequently all day is something that they are excited about.
Thank you. So this is a big lift, though, for the messaging and the communications piece, I would imagine, because as you mentioned, it's pretty much cold and ready to ski. So I'm assuming that you guys are working on getting that completed and out.
We are. Our PR folks are working, got plans in place to communicate in every front that you can think of. The ski resorts, we're working with them and their folks doing the same thing. Central Wasatch Committee, the cities and county involved are all on board in trying to help get that message up, particularly for that park and ride lot, to make sure people know to go to a different one instead this year.
Thank you.
Can I ask one question on that? I wondered if either through UDOT or some other mechanism, if they often use sort of detour signs or early warning signs that on those roads that sort of lead up to folks where they would be going there to tell them this is where you got to go, at least for the first few weeks. It seems like it would be, and maybe that's already in the works. It's always frustrating when you arrive at something and found out it's not there.
It's kind of too late then.
Yeah, and I just wondered if there's some opportunities down the road, literally down the road.
We hope so, and we think so. We've been working with UDOT to do that kind of thing. The ski resorts are rolling out an app for all of their users that when people plan their trip, it will notify them of their boarding options this year and many other things we're considering. But that's a great idea and one we're hopeful that that UDOT can pull off. We've been talking to them about that.
Do you know when the ski resorts are opening? Is it Thanksgiving? Is that still the target?
I'm not sure yet. I just read this morning in the paper the latest. We'll wait and see with this cold weather. It sounds like that might be moving up. The 23rd is something that November 23rd is a date I've been hearing a lot, but depending on snow, it changes between now and then. But the 23rd is the date I'm hearing most recently.
Thanks.
Or did you have something you wanted?
Yeah, I was just going to add from the perspective of the agreement itself. So we have been working very closely with the CWC and UDOT and a variety of others on various different planning projects for the county, for the canyons. And we presented with Lauren's help all of these great ideas that his team has come up with to help solve some short-term solutions. Obviously, there's a cost associated with it. The Central Wasatch Commission and all of the ski resorts in the county said, we really think that this is something that's critical and that we'd like to do this year. So we are asking you here today to pass a resolution that would authorize the executive director to enter into an interagency service agreement that would allow the Central Wasatch Commission to provide us funding up to $60,000, in addition to some additional partner funding that may come yet, still from the ski resorts. We're proposing that UTA would absorb the gap in funding between what they provide us and what the actual service costs. We need to actually cost all of that out to determine what it will, what the precise number is, but we think an estimate of about $150,000 total, so $90,000 of UTA's money. This would be just just for the 2019-2020 ski season. If it's successful, and we all agree that we want to keep doing this service next year, we would then roll that into our ski service planning for the 2020-2021 ski season. And that's all I wanted to add.
I would just add, I had the privilege of going to the Central Wasatch Commission and in the public comment, or just after the commission asked me whether we would be supportive, and indicated that we would, because we'd had some early conversations. But I would just say that, especially for the mayors that have communities around the canyons, this is sort of their biggest ask, is to try to find some solutions, because it literally inundates their community, and they benefit from, hotel stays and those kind of things. But as Lauren pointed out early in his presentation, and I think as we continue to do planning, it's a successful venue. So, and the only way to keep it more successful is how we can integrate our transit better into that. So thank you for your efforts in that regard. So, anyway, other questions, or Kent, or?
No.
You had your mic on. Does that mean you're ready?
I'm ready to make a motion. Let's
All right,
spend that money.
I'll let you do
Let's
that.
move those skiers.
You want to do that?
Absolutely. I move that we approve the resolution authorizing the interlocal cooperation agreement with CWC as has been outlined.
I will second that.
Have a motion and a second. I'll ask for a roll call.
Trustee Millington?
Aye.
Trustee Holbrook?
Aye.
Chair Christensen?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Good luck.
Yeah,
Go
thanks for
it.
your good work. I hear, as I'm writing Front Runner, I hear all the time from people saying, what are you going to do to facilitate the moving people during ski season? So now I'm going to be able to say we're increasing rather significantly the bus service. So thank you very much.
Our next item up, thank you. Our next item up is a resolution authorizing the purchase of real property and settlement agreement with Caroline Square and Midland National Life Insurance Company, with a bunch of parcels I'll not mention, but are listed in our agenda. Paul and David.
Very good, thank you. I'm Paul Drake, the Senior Manager of Real Estate and TOD. David Wilkins, our counsel. As you know, we're finalizing the last handful of right-of-way properties for our Utah County BRT. This is one of those. This property was a condemnation, and our acquisition team has worked diligently with the landowner to come to a fair settlement, and they've come up with some creative solutions. This has been a complicated acquisition, and they have, I believe they've done a good job coming with a great solution with the landowner and come to a settlement that we're bringing before the board today for your review. This acquisition, the seller is, I've heard it pronounced a few different ways. Caroline Square, it's a Spanish word. I had to look it up today. It's about bell towers and whatnot, so you can pronounce it Spanish if you want to, but I think the owner did it Caroline Square. Also, on the settlement agreement is Midland National Life Insurance Company, which is the secure lender for the property. As I stated, the purpose of this acquisition is for the Utah County right of way for the BRT. It's located at roughly 287 East University Parkway in Orem. We're purchasing 22,500 plus square feet in fee, perpetual easement of a little over 2,000 square feet, and a temporary construction easement of a little over 34,000 square feet. This is how the property lays out. You can see in red there along University Parkway is where we're purchasing property and fee to expand, widen the roadway there. There's a permanent easement you may not be able to see, but right on 200 East is a thin strip for utilities. You've got in the green is the temporary easement for construction. Something else to point out in orange, that little orange outline is replacement parking. It's the property that we'll talk about that was purchased to replace some of the lost parking as we went in and did our construction. Overall property costs, you can see the total is a little over $1.4 million. That breaks up into several components. The property itself was appraised at $612,500. That adjacent property, which was shown in orange there, is $236,000. Additional parking, this is the construction engineering costs for that, is $198,000. Replacement costs of some items, including there was a dumpster enclosure, relocation of some entry signs, some lost asphalt and landscaping, $82,000, almost $83,000. Also an Alta survey to clean up the property, and then 2 major marquee signs. This has already been done and paid for, but $327,986 for a total, like I said, $1.4 million. We're bringing this to the Board of Trustees and recommending that the board approves the purchase of the property, the administrative settlement, the settlement agreement, and that you authorize the executive director to execute the contract and the other documents. Any questions for us?
Now, this is in conjunction with the BRT.
Correct.
Along, and I think that's the north side of the University Parkway.
Correct.
Is this $1.5 million, is that still within the budget for UVX?
Yes, it is. Yep.
So this is just settling out that final. Now, is the acquisition of that piece, will the road then be widened, or has it already been widened and this is just settling what has been done?
The latter, yeah.
Okay. I thought that had been done because that adjacent property that you're buying is behind the J-Dogs there.
Correct.
Yeah, you got to have that additional parking for J-Dogs. That's an important
We like
deal.
people to go in there and get their hot dogs.
Absolutely.
I was hoping they'd take UVX, but yes, still want to have access.
Clearly need to go get a hot.
Also available. Yeah. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, the reason this was complicated than your normal strip take is that the amount of property taken would have placed the shopping center in extreme violation of Orem City's parking ordinance, where they require a certain number of parking per store. Throughout this project, Orem City's been very good to work with property owners about slight variances, but this was an extreme enough variance that we had to work out a deal in which we purchased the adjacent lot. It was a house owned by Orem City, and to convert that into additional parking.
Any other questions from the board?
No.
If there's none, I would entertain a motion.
I move that we authorize the purchase of the real property and settlement agreement with Carrion Square and Midland National Life Insurance Company as proposed.
I will second, but not in.
I was gonna say, can't
Sorry.
thanks.
You've heard, of course, Carillion. I mean, the English word is Carillion, meaning for bells, so this is a bell tower.
Have a motion and a second. I'll ask for a roll call.
Trustee Millington.
Aye.
Trustee Holbrook.
Aye.
Chair Christensen.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, David. Next is an amended resolution approving the Fifth Amendment of the Authority's Authority's 2019 budget. I was trying to think of what I'm supposed to say here. I'll look at this just a sec.
Would you like to?
Oh, I now remember what I'm saying here. When we passed a resolution previously, thank you everybody for pointing down at your table to remind me to read. When we passed the original resolution, it omitted the review of the advisory council, which is part of our statutory process. That review actually had taken place, but we had not acknowledged it in the resolution. So this just corrects that omission and clarifies and makes sure that it's clear that process did in fact take place on September 25th. Any questions from anyone? With that, I'd entertain a motion on this amended resolution.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve the amended resolution approving a Fifth Amendment to the Authority's 2019 budget.
Second?
A motion and a second. I'll ask for roll call.
Trustee Holbrook.
Aye.
Trustee Millington.
Aye.
Chair Christensen.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, everybody, and thanks for catching that. Make sure we get that right. Next up, item up 13, we're into contracts, disbursements, and grants, and the first is a change order for 10 transit and 9 Canyon service buses. Speaking of Canyon service buses, are these replacements or additions or both? Or
These are replacements.
okay,
So this is change order number 7 with Gillig LLC. This change order amount is $9,642,592, bringing the total amount of the contract to $62,041,121. Under this change order, we'll purchase 10 40-foot transit buses and 9 35-foot Canyon service buses. All 19 vehicles will be delivered in 2020. And as you know, buses have a useful life of somewhere between 12 and 14 years. The 10 40-foot transit buses will replace our 2008 Van Hools, and the 35-foot buses will replace our 2007 Canyon service buses. The requested amount is in our current 2020 proposed capital budget. Any questions on these buses?
any questions from the board?
I did have a slight question. It's probably, it's not a huge thing. I know that on our ski buses, we have the little mountains. Are they doing that same thing, or?
Yes, I would expect them to be branded in the same way.
And are you looking, we had the discussion on width and ski racks in or external. Are they basically the same buses, or are you staying the same width basically? And
Yeah, they're basically the same right now. I mean, depending on when we place that order, it actually goes through and everything. That's something that can be changed really quickly if we learn something,
From
through
this
ski season and
experience.
find out that, this is the way to go and leave those racks out. Then obviously we could make that change in the procurement.
Okay, great. Any other questions? With seeing none, I would entertain a motion on this.
I move that we approve this change order to acquire these 19 buses.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is a pre-procurement, and we have a couple items, and Todd, you're going to just tell us what we're looking at acquiring.
Yeah, so I'm here to bring some information on upcoming procurements, just as information. These items, following projects, services, products have been approved as a requisition, by the executive director and are ready for bid solicitation. The first one are holiday gift cards for UTA employees. This is something we do every year. We're proposing to go out for 2,900 gift cards at a value of $125 each. We typically put this out to 4 or 5 grocery stores, and we'll publicize this, and we get bids back from those stores, and this will be publicized as an IFP, so the lowest bidder will win the bid. It's pretty straightforward. Questions on that?
I think so. No.
The next one is for an e-voucher system development, testing, and demonstration. I've asked Ryan to come and give us some information on that one.
Sure. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you. Ryan Taylor, the Coordinated Mobility Manager. About a year ago, we applied for an FTA Innovative Coordinated Access Mobility Grant. In May, we were awarded that grant to develop an electronic voucher system. Currently, around the country, and this is not for fixed route bus or trains, this is more for specialized transportation, particularly helping those people who have disabilities or seniors, that's administered by other human service agencies. And they use vouchers in order to reimburse folks who are giving volunteer driver trips. That's the most typical situation. We have a partnership up in the north with Weber Aging and Davis County Aging, as well as a group called Roads to Independence, where we're demonstrating that right now. Also across the state, the different AOGs through 2019 have been demonstrating very similar volunteer driver voucher projects. The problem is around the country, there's no electronic system in order to do this. And so we had proposed in our grant application to build a modern electronic system in order to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse, and to make it so that we can use modern, cell technology and computer technology. We were awarded $700,125 in order to do this. We also had received a 5310 grant of $100,000 for this project. And within the grant application, it actually allowed us to name a key partner as a pilot program, and that would forego in your normal procurement process. So you wouldn't need to competitively go out and procure a software vendor. So we had named Cambridge Systematics as our key partner in this, as our software developer in the grant application. And so as we were selected and awarded that grant, that made it so that we didn't have to go out and do a formal competitive procurement for a vendor. And so we're currently in the process of getting prepared to go under contract with Cambridge Systematics.
Can I just ask a question? Is this, in my head, this is what I'm seeing, and I don't know if I'm on the right track. It's kind of like a Venmo type system.
It is.
In that
That's a
sense.
good
Is
way
that
to
right?
think of it, yes. So for example, you'd have a funding organization that would want to sponsor individual trips, and then your rider who would be qualified, let's just say it's someone who's a senior citizen, they would be qualified to get those trips, and then you would have a separate driver that would get paid a modest reimbursement to make that trip for that individual. And so yes, it would handle all of the eligibility for the individuals. It would handle the payment like Venmo, so that that driver could, instead of waiting 60 to 90 days to get a check, and then everything would be electronically administered. So the amount of administration can go way down, and that money could be redirected to actually making trips. And there's nothing like this in the world today that exists, so we're very excited about the creation of it.
I'm excited about it. I think it's a great potential idea. So, wow. Come back when you guys have furthered this along. I'd like to hear about it.
Great. So our next steps will be getting under contract with Cambridge Systematics, and then moving forward with the development.
Well, if it's successful, just don't become a consultant and make twice the salary, okay? You have to stay here.
What's your timeline on?
So we're looking at about 12 months of development.
Okay.
We've also partnered, when we did this, part of the grant application was they wanted to increase the amount of access to medical. And so we found an organization in Florida who had that piece of it where they could track the patients getting medical trips, and they already had that portion of it, and we were developing the electronic portion of it. So we partnered with a nonprofit called Community Health IT. They're working in the greater, basically from the East Coast on Florida over through the Jacksonville area, where they're going to be using this product to demonstrate it, and then our partners also in Utah will be utilizing it to demonstrate it.
Good.
That sounds like some exciting opportunities, so thank you. Anything else, Todd? Okay, great. Thank you. I'm going to take the next couple items, and then we'll take just a quick 5 or 7 minute break before we get into our final items. But let's cover complimentary service for Vineyard Frontrunner site. And Kenzie Kunkel is here with us. And I know we discussed this earlier, and I think this has actually already taken place, but we needed to formalize something.
That is correct. So, as mentioned, the first service request I am presenting to you today is for your approval today is the Vineyard Frontrunner site tour. This request was previously presented to the board by the executive director on October 9th. At this time, there was no objections. However, it was requested that this be made a formal agenda item for your approval. So, which is what I am requesting at this time.
Any questions on this one? No. I'll entertain a motion. Kent, looks like you're ready.
Yes, I would make a motion that we approve this complimentary service that had taken place down at Vineyard.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. And then item B, which complimentary service for the Central Corridor Transit Study Tour.
Correct. So, second item I'm presenting to you, as mentioned, is for the service request for the Central Corridor Transit Study. So on November 4th, a group of local city leaders, city managers, and mayors will take a tour on Route 850 and the UVX along State Street. They will start in Pleasant Grove and finish their tour at the Provo Frontrunner Station. Upon arriving at the Frontrunner Station, UTA will provide a vehicle back to Pleasant Grove. The value of this service is estimated to be $116 and is based on operational hours and cost per hour and mileage.
I would just make the comment that the purpose of this tour is to show the mayors, elected officials, city managers, the benefits of the bus rapid transit system that we have with UVX, with an eye towards putting a bus rapid transit system along State Street in Utah County from Provo Frontrunner Station up to Lehigh. That's what I've been meeting with. We've got Horrocks Engineering involved and UDOT, and Mary and I have been meeting with the mayors, and that's where I was yesterday morning, actually meeting with Orem. And so they're taking the group out to show them the possibilities of UVX, and then along the route that's currently serviced by bus route number 850, and show the possibilities along that route for a BRT system.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion on this item.
I certainly would recommend approval of this expenditure.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Let's just take a quick break. We'll reconvene at 10:15 sharp and then cover our last couple items. right, we're back from our recess, and our next item up is the South Salt Lake County Microtransit Pilot Fairs, and Jern Robertson and Andrea Packer, and looks like Nicole Bardot. Are you, okay, just these two. Okay. To get moral support and really, literally have your back, so good.
So,
Yeah, please, Carolyn.
So I just want to we were here a couple weeks ago discussing this, and I think there was a lot of confusion and on sort of what we were asking for. We've clarified in the board memo the recommendations, which is to approve the base fare for this pilot program, which is similar to what we will be, what currently is for bus and light rail, and then delegate the authority to the executive director, to myself, to be able to strategically implement fare promotions as needed during the pilot. And I did go out to New York for when I was there for the APTA and meet with VIA. Nicole and I and I forget, Katie met, and it was a good conversation. And the more you coordinate, the more successful the project is, and that was one of the things we talked about. So just in general, they'll go over a presentation specifically about the microtransit pilot first, but those are the actions that you would be approving today.
Great. Good morning, trustees. We're excited as we continue to make progress on this project. Let me give just a quick recap before we get into the fairs. We are looking to launch in November. We will come back in November as well and give you a more detailed update on the project itself, as we do want to focus on the fairs today. But as a reminder, this is an on-demand service. We're looking to pilot and test in the south end of the valley of Salt Lake County, again, starting this November. As Carolyn mentioned, the public-private partnership with VIA, and really what we're looking to do is test and get operational experience of new emerging technologies in on-demand service to really look how do we improve coverage, do we improve operational efficiencies, and how do we improve the customer experience. So really a lot of good objectives are coming out of this pilot. Moving on quickly, our goal with this project is really, when it comes to fares, is to remain consistent with UTA's current fare pricing in media. And therefore, what we're looking to do is establish a base fare of $2.50 per trip on the on-demand service. With that, we recognize and utilize almost all other fare products that UTA currently offers to allow our customers to seamlessly use this service in addition to other modes of transit. As one of the big objectives is look to make that first and last mile connection within the service area. So with that, using in-app payments is one mode. The customer certainly can make that request using the technology and pay their fare. But in addition, with current fare media, a customer who has an Eco Pass, a monthly pass, a Go Ride ticket, they've gone to the ticket vending machine. Simply, they're going to be able to go on when they make that trip request with the app. They'll be able to select a feature that says, I'm going to pay on board the vehicle. And at this current phase, really what that means is once they board the vehicle, they will show the driver that valid or that fare media for visual inspection at this point in the pilot. As we look to future improvements in integrations, we'll look at how could we potentially put validators or potentially even put these UTA fare products into the app itself. So there's a great potential to even simplify it more for the customer. But for that first step, what we want to ensure is that we can use our current fare products and allow our customers to use what they have and simplify that fare service. With one exception, we currently will not have the ability to collect cash on these vehicles. And since we do not have validators, we would not be able to collect fare pay cards or use fare pay cards as well.
So I had a quick question. So I used the VIA app when we were in New York, and I thought that one of the things that, as I'm remembering utilizing this, is it did have the you had to put in your credit card, of course, to do it like a typical like a Uber or Lyft. Are you going to require that part of it? Because we're just doing visual inspections, and I'm just curious how that's going to work.
So generally, you would set that up because that is a fare payment option that the app allows.
Okay.
Again, when you make that request for a trip, the app's actually going to ask you, and this would be different from your experience in New York. Is are you going to pay using your credit card that you entered in the app, or are you going to use a UTA fare product, which will say that on the app specifically, which you wouldn't have seen that in New York, but you'll see that in our service.
Thank you.
Yes.
Moving along, as we mentioned, the objective is ensure that our customers can seamlessly transfer between our other modes of service. So they can, again, they'll be able to use, if they pay on app, we'll make sure our fare inspectors know that they have that ability to check the app to make sure they have that 2.5 transfer window. And again, coming from another mode onto the microtransit system using our current product. So it's a seamless transfer for our customer in essence. And that's really a big objective, to make sure that, this service fills that gap and allows our customers to make a complete and total trip with the system.
Can I ask a question? So Front Runner, they transfer to Front Runner. It doesn't, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I always use my card, but it seems like if you go a longer distance on Front Runner and you're paying a cash price, it's probably more than $250, correct?
That is correct. You would have to use the typical Front Runner upgrades based upon the distance you're traveling on Front Runner, just as if you were using another mode as well.
Okay. And will that be clear to them, I guess? And I'm asking more out of ignorance, meaning if they pay the $250, say they get on in South Jordan or Bluffdale and go to a Front Runner station, do they realize that then they're going to have to pay a difference, or will there be an app collect sort of the final destination fee from them?
Yeah, you would have to go to the ticket vending machine, and I believe it's a T-ticket. T-ticket, you'd have to do that standard upgrade, and in addition, the V app wouldn't be able to collect that additional fare.
So from a messaging point of view, it's very similar to how we educate our other customers. If you're transferring from bus or TRAX, you do need to, pay the difference on Front Runner as well. So it is consistent.
The only other question I have is, we do have some group pricing, right? Like if you have, I think it's 4 or 5 people.
The group pass.
Group pass.
Yes, 4 people can ride for.
Could they get the group pass? I mean, at that point, you'd think everybody's going to get in their own van, go to like a Front Runner station or track station. But say somebody's really trying to give their kids the adventure, would they be able to do a group pass on VIA? Like if they took everybody?
Yeah, there's quite a bit of flexibility with the technology. As you go on and you make that trip request, you start adding additional riders, and it's based upon our determination if we want to potentially discount additional trips, or not additional trips, additional passengers. So maybe I could go on and pay that base fare, and for each additional passenger, I could certainly, it could bring down the cost. Again, those are parameters we can set up, and we can talk about in promotions. Or we can certainly do, and Andrea will probably talk about this, is we can discount pricing with different promotions or different promo codes that would allow you to do a group pass, essentially.
I'm just thinking, and especially in the timing of your kickoff, as you're entering the holiday season, we get a lot of sort of families that come down for the lights or other concerts or other types of things, and clearly they could do the car thing to the park and ride lot, and probably most will. But I just wondered if that is a seamless kind of experience, mostly because that's really where they see this great value. I mean, they'll see it on the commuter thing. I think that's the logical audience, but I do see this sort of going to the Utah football game, those kind of folks might look at it as an opportunity too. So, right. I mean, anyway, just something to keep in mind. I realize it's problem number 25 and you're on number 5.
No, I appreciate it, and those are items we are looking at and evaluating, and I think we could quickly just talk about some of the potential promotions we're looking at, and I'll let Andrea speak to that.
Thank you, trustees. Again, as and now we've kind of covered the base fares and how fare media will work. As we mentioned when we were here a few weeks ago, we are looking to be able to implement various types of promotions during the course of the pilot. And I put them in 3 categories last time because that's a little bit how my brain works. So some of them could be a launch to incentivize riders immediately. Is something we've done as we introduced other modes and services when we've opened new TRAX lines or when we opened Front Runner. We've had discounted fare days just to get people on board quickly. Referrals are another type of program where once we have people who have downloaded the app and use the service, that VIA has had good success in the past with just saying, hey, refer a friend. and you each get a trip for free, things like that. And then rewards. So if somebody has used it a few times and then they haven't been using it for a while, then similarly, VIA has had good experience with saying, hey, give us another try, or ride 4 times and get the, a free 5th ride, or things like that. So so we had talked previously about, an initial discounted fare, the potential for, new riders, and then just with some engagement, with additional rides for free. And so the reason we are requesting that the executive director be delegated some authority is we do want to partner closely with VIA. They've had a lot of experience with this, and we want to be very data-driven during the course of the pilot, and VIA is very, very data-driven. So if we're seeing, good success at the outset, we might wait a little bit, or if we're seeing that we need some referrals, we want to be nimble and be able to respond to what's happening over the course of the pilot and have that flexibility. And so there's examples of promotions that we would do if you grant us or grant the executive director that authority. And as we mentioned a few weeks ago, we're happy to come back and give you reports and updates on that.
Questions? Looks like Beth, did you have a question?
No, I didn't have a question. I just was ready to make a motion, but
If there are no questions, I'll then go to you. Any questions? Okay, Beth.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the Salt Lake County microtransit pilot fares as presented.
Second.
And thanks.
We have a motion and a second, and I assume this would gives you the delegation that you need, Carolyn. Okay. All right. With that, seeing no other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes, so thank you.
If I can just share one final comment with you, thank you. Just to build your excitement a little bit, as we'll be back in a few weeks to talk more about our launch and marketing plans. One of the vehicles is parked outside, and so we invite you to go out and see it. And we would like to get some pictures with you if you would be amenable to that.
That'd be great.
As we get closer to the launch, we will have a lot of marketing materials and website information and all of that ready. And we're planning some really good, fun launch of service activities with all of our stakeholders and our riders and the public. So we're still finalizing all of that. But if you'd like to take a sneak peek at the vehicle, it is parked outside, so we invite you to do that.
I saw it coming in. I really like the co-branding on it. You've done a good job, and it gives a nice recognition for both. So.
Thank you.
Well,
I'm excited.
I'm sure you'll probably see us right after. So.
Yeah, please do. We'd love to get some photos, so thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Jaren. Our next item up is a discussion item in regards to our community relations and school programs. And I would just make the quick comment. Probably 8 or 9 months ago, I have a sister-in-law teaching at a Title I school and up in the Clearfield Layton area, and she wanted to take her kids to a play that they were offering at Northridge High School, and she goes, I don't know how to get them there, and I just pulled out the transit app, and turns out that there was a bus lane and went right past the elementary school and took them within a couple minutes walking distance of the high school, and found out that there was a program already in place here that teachers could apply to, and they had a great experience. And it was late in the morning, so I'm pretty sure the bus wasn't heavily full, and the bus driver probably was glad when they all got off. But anyway, I just wanted to compliment you for that effort, and I'm sure you're here to talk about that and more. And anyway.
Exactly. So thank you for this opportunity. We're really excited to be able to take a few minutes and present this to you today. And it really reflects a lot of effort and momentum that we've really pushed forward just in the last year. And there's a lot more to come. But first, I wanted to introduce Sam Aramburu from my team. I don't know if you've met her. But she is really taken the bull by the horns with this program and and really made a lot of changes and improvements this year. She's our community relations specialist, so she also is moving out on some other initiatives. But today we will focus on the school programs and well as a little heads up on a couple other things. So just for a little bit of background, is we have had a school program off and on in the organization for a long, long time before my time was here. There was a full-time person in the customer service department previously who did that and went out and made those presentations, coordinated the materials for the teachers and the students. We lost that position in 2010, and so we were kind of making do for a few years where we would package the materials and send them to the teachers and invite them to share the information and the education with their students. And then about 2016, 3 or 4 years ago, with the direction and support from Nicole Bordeaux, we really tried to refocus on this and kind of really take an assessment of community relations at UTA and where we are and where we want to go. And a comprehensive plan was developed, and one of the components of that plan was kind of our K through 12 outreach. And then with that, Sam, who was actually had a little history with UTA as an intern with us on the UVX project, I stole her to my team, and so she's been working with us for just about a year. And so she has been charged with moving out on a lot of this, and I really want to give her a lot of the credit. So I will just turn the time over to Sam.
I think it's okay. So like Andrea was saying, when I was hired, we decided to put a larger focus on the school program. Just to give you some context, so what this program does is we provide education to the students, to K through 12 students about UTA and what we do. And then it's kind of an exchange. Once we provide that education, they receive wristbands for their students to take a field trip for free on UTA. Those wristbands are available for one teacher per school year. So we have a lot of repeat customers. And then with this new focus, we've been able to get some new teachers aware of this program and on board with the field trips. So when I started, we decided that we would just reevaluate what we were doing. There's a couple of different elements of the presentation and of the education piece that we were going to look at again. The first is we have a pirate video that's been sent out to students and to teachers. It's about 10 minutes long. Eric Vance was the creative brain behind it, and it is a funny video. Kids love it, and we realized that it still holds a lot of weight, makes people laugh, but most students have actually already seen the video because teachers have been from the time they're in kindergarten up until 6th or 7th grade. And so that was something that we wanted to look at and see if that was still effective in the education part. And we go over safety information. We talk a lot about the yellow line at train stations, how to be safe at crossings. There's a lot of materials from the nonprofit Operation Lifesaver, who our safety and security team work really closely with, and we use those materials as well. And we were presenting so when I first started, I just went in and just went to whatever school wanted us out, and we went to elementary, middle, and high schools to start these presentations.
So where do we access the pirate video from?
Is it on YouTube?
It is on YouTube.
It's on YouTube.
It's only good at law.
So that was kind of what we started doing when I first started. With this new school year, the 2019-2020 school year started, and we decided that we were going to change things a little bit. We decided that the presentation format is most effective for elementary school students, and that's just from the qualitative data that I collected by doing presentations at all of the different types of schools. The elementary school students definitely respond the best to this presentation format. The presentations usually last about 30 minutes. It's really interactive. We usually do one grade at a time up to an entire school. So we decided to focus these presentations on 3 main tenets. It's how to ride, why we ride, or the benefits of riding UTA, and then safety. We produced, with the help of R&R and our own team, a new song and for the students, which you'll get to hear in a minute. We have a couple new videos, and we also were able to team up with a lot of we sent a call out for employees to have their middle school age students to come out and star in a field trip video. So we'll show that to you as well. There's a new format. We now are available on Wednesdays between 10 o'clock a.m. and 2 o'clock p.m. and everything is now requested online through online forums. So, as teachers continue to request through emails and through customer service, they're all directed to the same form online. So it's really streamlined and we can collect data that way. And if a presentation isn't possible because we're already booked, we send them materials online and they're able to still get wristbands sent in the mail. So we make sure that everybody's taken care of that needs to get these wristbands and this education. So.
How many schools have you made presentations to?
I don't have an exact number. I am out. I do at least one a week, sometimes two. When I started, I was doing 3 to 4 a week, and that was becoming. I couldn't do anything else. So we now do 1 to 2 a week, and I'm booked through the end of 2019, and we're starting to book through 2020 as well. So.
And just to give you a sense, there are 2 presentations today, which we have someone covering for Sam, so she could be here. She'll be taking off shortly after this meeting to go give another one this afternoon. So,
and it's been fun to see the progression of this program. I think teachers originally, they just want the wristbands. They just want a free field trip because buses are expensive to book through districts. And but as the presentations have started, as the materials have expanded, I've started to have teachers requesting this presentation just because they've heard about it from different teachers. I'm actually going to school today. I got a phone call and this teacher was like, we already bought our bus tickets, but can you still come and do this educational program? And I was like, yeah, of course. Yeah, I'd be happy to be there. So it's been fun. I'm going to try to show you, this is our song that we created. I always tell the students, this song is stuck in my head all the time, so I want it to be stuck in yours as well. So let's see if it plays.
So you know just when to know, just when to go, 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 UTA. But remember, drink safety and always look both ways. Then put down your distractions, crossing when you see it's safe. And if you're with your parents, always hold their hands. Be a good example, make sure they understand that safety's #1. It's best for everyone. Happy people, happy riding, happy people, happy, happy.
We're really happy at UTA.
It
is catchy.
Where can I
know I'm going to keep that in my head.
where can I get the download of that?
That's on YouTube as well.
Of that video.
When we were first listening and reviewing it, it was like all you could hear up in our department, and it was just stuck in our head like for the rest of the day. And the next morning, I woke up singing that song.
The reason being, I'm making a presentation up in Hiram on Friday.
Great, yeah.
To schools. Eric, you have those? I'll get with you later today, get them downloaded. Thank you.
We show that song twice, so once at the beginning to set up the presentation and then once at the end. And I always say you can sing along and dance, which teachers are never thrilled with because of the rowdiness factor, but it gets stuck in their heads. So
then I think the next one, so you can explain this. We produced a series of 4 very short things that are also used in the program, so they have a kind of a consistent look and feel too. If they will play, sorry, Jana.
This
just has a song.
I wonder try switching your mics. I wonder if something's wrong with the mic.
I think we missed a couple of them, so I'll try the next one. Nope, it's not going to play. So there's 4 of those that are short like that, and then it's 2
There
minutes
were
long
some
if you don't
things I
want to watch
actually
the whole
liked about
thing.
school, like
But
field
it's the
trips.
field trip video.
It's even better if you get to ride UTA. So here's what you can expect and what is expected of you when you use UTA. Your teacher or group leader will have your passes, and you need to have them on you before riding. They might look like a wristband, and they are only valid for the date stamped on them. Also, keep your pass or wristband for the whole day. You will need it to ride back. If you are paying to ride, make sure you buy your ticket or tap on before you get on. Think ahead and be early to the bus stop or train platform. If you're taking a bus, stand back a safe distance from the curb. If you're taking a train, stand behind the yellow line, including anything you're carrying. Wait for the bus or train to stop completely, and let other people get off first. Step inside, and if your teacher or a group leader or a UTA employee has a place they need you to sit, quietly and respectfully follow their directions. However, on FrontRunner or TRAX, you will not be able to stand or sit on the stairs. People need access to the stairs, so we just them. It's also important to be quiet and polite to the other people on the bus or train. Many passengers like to relax before they get to work or their university. When you're moving to a seat, or if the train is full and you need to stand, make sure you hold on to the handrails or hand straps. It's much safer. During your trip, you might see a few different types of UTA employees. Train hosts and bus operators can help answer questions you might have. A UTA transit officer might check your ticket or wristband, and you might even see one of our police dogs. Please do not put your feet on the seats. Do you want to sit in the last thing someone walked through? It's also important to have your bag or backpack on your lap or under your seat. It makes more room for everyone. Your teacher or group leader will let you know when your stop is coming up. So when they do, hold on, stand up, and quietly be ready. Make sure you have your stuff, like your backpack or phone. Wait for the train to completely stop and let people with wheelchairs, bikes, or strollers go first. Let your teacher or group leader press the door button and step off the train onto the platform. If you're on the bus, the operator will open the doors for you when it's safe for you to exit. We hope you have an awesome field trip, and thank you for riding UTA. You can always go to rideuta.com to learn more about us.
And just as a side note, the students who were starred in that video are children of our own employees. So we actually put out a call to our employees if your middle schooler would like to participate, and we had a tremendous response. And Sam and Eric spent a little bit of time out there one day getting that video put together. So, but those are our own employees' children. And then just let Sam wrap up on this quickly.
So we do school presentations. We also have a couple other efforts that are happening right now. We do facility tours with an educational component. We target people that are high school students and might be interested in trade careers to bridge that gap for people that want to work in maintenance or operations. We also are working with sponsorships. We sponsor different community outreach events, and we have a budget in place for that. And then we also just attend a lot of different community events. We have booths at different fairs. We had a lot of booths this last summer in Utah County. I worked with Mary down there on that. So those are some of the efforts that are going on.
And similarly with the facility tours, and if somebody wants us to come to their community event, it's all available online. So we've really moved a lot of the information and request options online as well. And that's just kind of a glimpse of how it looks on our website, where you can access all of that. And any final thoughts or questions?
Are you finding you're getting natural interest from teachers as they tend to talk to each other a lot, or do you find you're having to sort of self-promote this a lot?
A lot of the teachers that I first started working with had been using the program before I was hired. I don't have to do a lot of promotion for the school program. They seem to be aware of it. All of the information is also online. So I will get requests from teachers. I want to take my kids on a field trip. I don't really know the procedure. But it is a lot of word of mouth between different schools and teachers and school districts of how this works.
Can I just ask you the parameters? Like, is it literally in all of our counties that we service, all of the cities? And anyone in those areas can just request something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
I've got an idea that I've shared before, and that is, are we engaged at all in driver's education to provide information, perhaps even a free one-way or round-trip ticket for people to learn to ride UTA as opposed to just teaching them how to drive cars?
Yeah, so from my understanding, I believe it's a part of Utah law that Operation Lifesaver has to be a part of the driver's education program. And so I know that Sheldon Shaw's group works a lot with that. They go to high schools and we'll have presenters out there. I don't know if there is specific UTA information included in those visits. I'm not entirely sure, but I like that idea a lot. I think that could be something really great.
Yeah, I'd like to see us maybe promote ridership rather than just drivership. Thanks.
Thank you.
The one question, a final question, I guess. What's your capacity? Meaning, like, have you reached 50%, or at what point do you kind of say I'm full? Or I like the idea of teach yourself doing it. Not that you shouldn't be in a classroom, but that could get almost impossible at a certain point in time, and so having them engaged somehow in that teaching process is probably valuable too. But is there a point where you say, look, we've handled all the school kids we can handle for this given year, or is it just really a system capacity issue?
So that was something we encountered when I first started. Like I said, I was out 4 to 5 times a week doing presentations, and it just became too much. So that's why we kind of changed it to Wednesdays. We're available on Wednesdays between these hours. If we're already booked and we can't make it out to their school, all of the materials, we have a video of me actually doing the presentation that we send to the teachers. So they can just show that, and then we mail the wristbands. So it's an imperfect solution. We wish we could be in all of the schools all of the time, but unfortunately that's not possible. So
At this point, you're not saying no to anybody?
no, I mean, if a Wednesday is open and we have time during that Wednesday, we'll go out and do it.
Is there a way to maybe meet with all of the, like Davis County school districts, Box Elder, whatever, and maybe do your presentations there and then have that trickle down as well? Maybe that's an extra layer that can take some of the pressure off and give them notification that it's online type of thing.
Yeah, I like that idea.
All right, any other questions? Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Great job, by the way.
Thanks, Sam, and thanks, Andrea. I believe that's the completion of our agenda, and that brings us to just an indication of our next meeting on November the 6th. With that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We'll stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone.